Welcome to Delicacy Spoilers ahead. Be careful, the nun starts showing an old wall and creepy along with wooden furniture that is worn out. There are bugs that occasionally fly from the outside through the vents while flying through the air. A boy says who envies them, hits the bug between his hands and looks at the remains that remain on his palm, then licks it but stops saying that it is very bitter, says that he has spent his entire life here, wipes the bug off his hand and says that he has always status trapped here. His light is blinking and the boy I didn't make his name even in the last chapters, so boy it will be his name for now. He is writing a self-introduction for when he finally leaves the basement. Boy says that normally one would start with his name but he doesn't. He knows what her name is because he's never been told. He looks aside at a photo saying he should have one. It's a photo of him. His mother and father separated from his mother shortly after he was born because of the photo of her and her smile. He realizes that he loved him very much. His father interrupts him and tells him that he is no longer here, that his mother has died. The boy turns around and asks him what he means. He tells him that he died shortly after being born. He jumps off a bridge and runs away, laughing, making the boy angry. He says that although this man is his father, he is also the bastard who locked him here to make sure he can't escape. There are several doors with their own locks. All the keys are on his father's hip. The father says he never told him. Will send him outside and asks him if he hasn't told him before why his mother jumped off the bridge. The boy seems scared. The father picks up a cookie and puts it in his face, saying that his mother was afraid of the world he lived in. He tells him to imagine that the cookie is the world. Then he breaks it, saying that he already knew that an apocalypse was coming. The boy is still nervous. The father tells him that he does not send him away because he loves him and cannot see how his own son becomes discouraged. The boy trembles with fear. He gets angry and tells him that he is lying, saying that it seems like a ridiculous excuse and that he shouldn't talk like that about his mother. He asks him if he thinks she would believe him when she kept him trapped here. He says that it depends on him or not. If he wants to believe her, he grabs his notebook. I go, saying that his self-presentation will never see the light of day. He is going to burn him, and I go, he tries to stop him but the father ignores him. Now there are only ashes left. I go, he starts to ask how someone like him is his father. Says I go, I shouldn't have said something like that. What is he doing all this for him and to follow him since it is that time of day? They start walking down the hallway and I say that this happens at the same time every day, even from the vents that face the outside. He can't hear anything but the sound of him and his father, and they are alone in this giant basement. The father starts writing on the blackboard and boy says it's always the same routine. His father lectures him and then he continues with the training. There is only one thing that allows him to overcome this worldly life. Smiles a book, saying that he is able to read library books for entertainment. There are many to choose from but he likes the ones that describe the outside world. He can only imagine what it is like on the outside. He wonders what the feeling of sunlight is like and says it must be quite hot. He wants to feel what it's like to run through the grass and trees. He wants to see what others are like and maybe make friends with them, but above all he needs to find his mother. His father kicks him in the face. He grabs the book, saying that he has surely told him what books he can read and this is a book on the surface. The father laughs, saying that it is pathetic that the child has so much attachment to the outside and he has already told him before that he can never go out because when the apocalypse comes the world will be filled with screams and blood. Only ashes will be left. The only place he can survive is here in the basement. Boy says he's tired of this damn lie. It's always about how the apocalypse is approaching. That's why he's been locked up here, being constantly physically abused. He says that he will escape from this prison no matter what the cost, but that right now is not the time to do it. He needs to wait for the perfect opportunity. The moment he lets his guard down, he will try to get the keys and dive into the training area of the bunker. We see him. I'm sweating while doing some push-ups. The father says that if he is tired from just that he won't be able to survive as he has only reached 10 so far, but we see that he has a lot of weight piled on his back. His arms give way and he collapses under the weight. He is exhausted and his father approaches. He extends his hand to him but today he is confused. He sees that his father seems worried and asks him why he is helping him. The father grabs his arm and pulls him up, saying that he never said he was helping him, while he kicked his feet, making him rolling towards a mirror, crashing into it on his back. The father says that if someone approaches him he should never trust them. He always distrusts humans, especially during the apocalypse, which is what he has been training him for, and combat techniques will be essential since he needs to be able to survive with his own hands. But he realizes that she is not listening to him, Today, since he has not responded, he says that he is weak to have fainted, so he turns around to leave, saying that they can finish here for today. As he leaves, today's eyes fill with opportunity. He says that this carelessness is what he was waiting for. He stands up, abruptly grabbing a piece of glass. His father hasn't realized it yet. I'm going to run towards him. Then he puts his feet together, exploding forward, saying that he can kill him and escape. As he gets closer and closer to his father's back, Boy smiles, saying it worked. Father stops moving as Boy gets closer. Boy has made a mistake in his plan. Father looks down at the ground to see a shadow behind him, and it is revealed that he never let his guard down to begin with. The fragment getting closer, his face distorts as he turns and smiles at him. Boy is shocked to see the creature-like movements coming from his father, but he continues with his plan. He tries to stab the father, dodges the attack. To today's surprise, the father begins to pivot and turn his body to launch a roundhouse kick. Boy realizes that he is screwed, and all we hear is the sound of the kick. Falls unconscious. A little later, the sound of dripping water wakes him up. He sits up and sees the water from the sink bouncing into a bucket while his father tells him that he has finally woken up. He says that it was a good try, at least the attack was, but that he said before that if it is not with his own hands, then all this training is in vain. He begins to smile, saying that the penalty for using a weapon is that training twice as much. The father closes the cell door and leaves, telling Boy to rest for a while. Little like tomorrow will be a hard day. He laughs as the lights dim. He walks down the hall and I go. He says he knows something his father doesn't know. When he turns off the lights, all the electricity in the room goes out for a moment and all the noise fades away, and if you concentrate on listening during that moment, you can hear things that were too muffled before. Even though they are far away, you can hear things faintly: the sound of wheels turning, the song of birds, and the sound of a city full of people. From this he discovered two things. While his father says it's time to sleep, it's actually daytime on the surface, and the other truth is that the earth is at peace. His father keeps saying that the end is near, but it's an excuse to keep him locked up, so he plans to escape from here. And then you will find your mother whenever you ask about her. They have only told you that she is dead, but now that you know that she is only telling lies, you think that now you understand how it means that she is alive. The nurse gets up and says that she is going to make sure that she finds her. The father walking down the hall while laughing, and then his phone rings. He stops moving and picks it up to see that it's from someone named River. His facial expression changes a series and he asks what it is. He says he told them not to contact him unless it was an emergency while the child is sleeping. The father listens to River speak for several minutes, and when River finally stops talking, the father says that it is fine and that they should let the boy live. Immediately, he collapses on the floor, sobbing for what he said. What they told him. Some time later I go. He hears his father laugh, and when he opens his eyes he sees that he is in a completely different mood than usual and he seems sinister. Boy realizes that he feels bad and asks him what is happening. Then he feels that he can move, and he looks down to see that he is tied, and he shouts asking what is happening and to untie him, but the father continues laughing without listening to what he is saying. Today he grits his teeth in anger and says that he will free himself. He begins to flex and the ropes begin to slowly break. Igo gets distracted and looks up to see father staring at him, and in a tone that fills his blood he tells him to stop. I breaks into a cold sweat, saying that he thought the training was going to be twice as difficult, asking him if he doesn't remember that. Father tells him that the plans have changed since they will not do anything today, rather not only today but every day from now on he will be forced to sit in this chair. The boy starts to get scared, asking what he is talking about, saying that he told him that I would train him to survive. Father says that the training is over. The boy wonders what has happened to him so suddenly. He will not be able to see his mother if he does not manage to free himself. He begins to struggle to escape. Father asks him what he is doing. I begin to struggle so hard as he can, just breaking something on the rope. Father sees this and remains silent. Then he begins to laugh uncontrollably, but it was not like his normal laugh. It seemed demonic in nature. He throws a punch that cracks like a whip. There is a certain delay that throws the boy and the chair into the air, causing him to fall. The father approaches and picks up the chair again, saying that he is sure he told him not to move. He laughs and returns to normal, but boy is determined to escape, and the father tries again. This time he kicks him and laughs while boy is on the ground. This sequence is repeated several times, and boy does not know what prompted him to continue fighting that day, as it would have made more sense to pretend that he agreed and look for another opportunity, but he did not want to give up, even though boy feels his hand move and looks down to see that he has freed himself from the ropes. He says that he felt an excitement that he had never felt before. He began to wondering what face he would make to his father if he beat him. He smiles and turns to look at him, but instead he finds that his father has already closed the distance. He thought his father would be angry because he had run away or even worried, but instead he sees something which he did not expect since his father is crying and it seems that he has always been keeping it to himself. Boy is surprised because for the first time he can see that behind his father is a sad man. The boy wonders why he looks at him like that. He does not even try to avoid the attack. After being hit, he begins to lose consciousness and sees that his father approaches him and with a trembling voice tells him that he hopes he can understand. He begins to remember his father's words. He says to always keep in mind, and among all the advice of survival, the most important rule is to never leave the basement. There is a safer place than this. It has thousands of defense mechanisms and will last for 126 years and has food every hour. Try to leave a place that has everything prepared. Just ask for death. Finally, he will find them without warning, so he should not leave the basement. He starts to wake up and gets up when he sees that his father is not in sight. He says that it had never happened to him before and that the only time he disappeared was when he went to sleep. He says that yesterday he was also acting very strange. He sits against the wall. He says that from the repetitive lifestyle to the current situation he couldn't understand. He knew that something big was about to happen to him. The gears stop turning and he says that his hunch was right. When the door opens, you see that all the doors in the country have been opened and that there is no one in sight. It is an opportunity that you could not pass up. Run out. To take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, start running beyond the door and through it. The hallway says that father would have stopped him if he were here, but since he hasn't, it means that he is not. He continues running until he reaches the back staircase and he looks up saying that he has found it. He starts to climb it and he hopes that there is light outside. Just when he reaches the top, he removes the lid and we hear the noise of the cars. His eyes are closed due to the light, but he opens them slowly and is completely surprised. He sees in front of him a normal urban landscape with people everywhere walking calmly, living their lives in their hearts. It starts to beat hard. Finally, he has managed to get out. A man approaches him and asks him why he is in the middle of the road. Boy turns around and is happy to see another person. The man wonders if he has something wrong with his head. The boy turns away. He realizes it's too early for this. He can't let his guard down now that he's escaped, as his father might realize he's missing. The best thing he can do now is run and create distance as he runs through the city. He says he's dreamed about this all his life, escaping from the basement and being truly free until a few moments ago seemed like an impossible task, but somehow it still seems strange to him that it has opened so suddenly. He stops moving to wonder why. He thinks maybe it was a system failure, but it is impossible that it opened just for that reason, since his father would not make mistakes, which makes him think that perhaps opening the door was his father's intention from the beginning. He shakes his head saying that it was not at all, since he was the one who put it. The rule of never leaving the basement. He looks around and sees people living their lives like normal people, students, children playing happily, and only smiles around him. He realizes that he could have had these experiences if his father had not told him lied. There is no apocalypse, only peace. Boy says he knew that worries about the end were useless while everyone is having fun, but all their laughter begins to be drowned out by the sound of flapping wings, and only one thing resonates in the boys' heads, that it was that the end finds them all without warning. The birds fly through the sky and everyone looks at something with pure disbelief. A balloon blocks the view of today, but as it passes we see that there is something in the sky that begins to block the sun all the time. World begins to wonder what is happening. Mysterious thing. Planet begins to form a whirlwind. A closer look at the planet shows that there are multiples of them forming all at the same time, going straight towards the earth almost like tentacles. As it gets closer they start to get scared. They ask each other, what is it, suggesting that maybe it's the moon. I ask if they're all stupid or if they just can't see that bright light emanating from it, like it's the eyes of a monster looking at them all. But it's not just one anymore, that those tentacles that formed are thousands of monsters all charging together, forming on them as they get closer and closer. Boy remembers his father saying to never leave, but that there is an exception to that rule, which is when the location of the basements it is exposed to the enemy. For some reason the monsters head straight to the basement before going to other parts of the land, meaning rule 1 no longer applies. The monsters charge through the basement, heading to the end with them packed inside like sardines. The others begin to spread across the surface. All the Darwin Award winners sit and watch the spectacle until one of them is chosen by a monster and dragged towards him with his tentacles. The man screams but does not even try to escape from the monster's claws, and he is greeted with the monster's mouths ready to eat. At this point no one is running, and just seeing how the man chewed like a pancake, only his head is thrown through the ground, landing in front of the crowd, is that he has to roll before the fear and panic take over them. They start to scream and everyone starts running, asking what the hell is happening. Some of them start to fall and we see a boy with no social Conscience listening to music while everyone else runs past him. We see something flying from above and it turns out it's a rock thrown by this giant guy. He starts throwing them at the civilians as if it wasn't bad enough that they have to be careful with the giant rocks. Another monster covered in spikes flies out and effortlessly cuts them in half. The people around him, other types of monsters appear, just effortlessly snub the lives of these humans. A man looks out and screams, and then we see today seeing this people start calling the police. Boy hears a horrible sound and says his father once told him when the apocalypse comes the world will be filled with blood and screams and only ashes will remain. What was once a quiet street has now become a scene of horror. Boy sees what can only be described as an absolute unit, trampling skyscrapers. Like if the parade of monsters hadn't cemented the fact that their ordinary lives have ended, this Bima's trampling buildings and destroying terrain made them understand that the world is doomed. Just look at the amount of the city this unit trampled, with even more monsters descending by the ruins of the city. Boy says that his father was right all this time. He begins to wonder if his father wasn't lying to him after all, and maybe his mother is dead. He begins to freeze as everyone behind him is swallowed up by the wave of monsters. While the boy is standing there, a hand grabs him and starts to take him away. It is none other than the father. Asks him how he found it, but the father tells him to keep running and not to stop. The monsters get closer and closer. The man behind today begins to turn into a chew toy. The boy begins to gasp as he and his father turn a corner only to see even more monsters. The father jumps over a railing and tells him to follow closely. Boy follows him, and they start running against the crowd towards a bridge. In the distance, monsters of all shapes and sizes start eating the civilians around them, and some seem to just kill for no apparent reason. Boy keeps running, but other Darwin Award winners just stare. The monsters consume everything behind Boy and his father. And as they advance across the bridge, Boy turns to see that there is no one left behind them since they have all been trapped by the wave of monsters. He tells his father that they will catch up to him. The father tells him to keep running, that it is the only way out of the city. The bridge is over a giant canyon probably left by the unit below them. The monstrous wave races yet, but now it turns and begins to rise up. The puente tells his father, but then he stops in seco as a monster clinging to his foot begins to squeeze and begins to damage his foot. He grunts in pain but says that if he doesn't take it off now he will die, but the father approaches with a car door and uses it to cut off the monster's arm. The monster screams and the bridge falls. The boy starts to grab his ankle and the father approaches him. Seeing that his foot is decently injured, the bridge starts to shake as the wave continues advancing towards them. Boy starts to get up, saying that he needs to run, but the more he does it the more he realizes that the distance between them seems to be reducing, and no matter how much he runs he won't be able to escape. He falls, and as he gets closer he looks up and sees his father looking at him intently, tells him to leave, at least he can save himself. The father begins to take steps and Boy says that it is what he expected since his father always ignored him. He thinks it is over, but his father extends his hand. I go and ask him why he doesn't get up. He asks him why he doesn't leave him and runs away as he can't go far. Even though he runs, father tells him that he can survive since he has a plan. Boy is surprised and says that it is impossible for him to have a plan. Father looks at him with a face of confidence and he closes his mouth, remembering his tears. Then he grabs his hand. Father pulls him away, telling him to run. When the boy starts to run, he turns to ask what the plan was. He feels something in his hand. Father yells at him that there is no time. He has to escape. Bridge now. Boy says he has it and starts running. The closer he gets to the other side the more violently the bridge begins to rumble. He sees shadows, and when he turns he sees that the beams of the bridge are breaking due to the weight of the monsters and that the cables are also breaking. They break as they fall the canyon below, sending some of the monsters and presumably his father to the depths. The boy stays there and calls his father, wondering what happened to the bridge or if his father is remembering his father saying that he had a plan, and he wonders if this was what he had planned. He wonders why he would go to the extreme of torturing his whole life by saving him. Now his legs are shaking and he collapses, saying that he has survived, but now what is the point of him having survived everything? Who has dreamed in life on earth that light has gone out, there is no peace, there is no beauty, and his most important goal of knowing his mother is also nothing more than a dream. He begins to cry, saying that he wanted to ask why his father was so far away to save him. He wonders what he should do next, since this is a hell worse than the prison he grew up in. He remembers that his father helped him and gave him a note. He looks at his hand and opens it slowly to see what is written. He shouts. He stops crying after what he has seen and stares at the remains of the bridge. But then a monster starts to come out of the cliff. The boy gets scared and turns around, but he feels nothing but pain in his leg. He grabs the railing. and he realizes that the monster is getting closer until they both end up falling from the bridge. I roll on the ground. The monster also decides to play on the ground. I try to get up but can't since his resistance is low. The monster starts to sit up and he says that he can't run away from him. He starts to think that he is going to die like this, but now his light comes back on again. Esperanza starts to cry while she looks at the note and wonders why her father only tells her that her mother she is alive now. The monster gets up now that she has something to look forward to. Her body begins to fill with adrenaline and she gets up saying that she wants to live. She will not give up. She will find her mother, but first, how the hell is she going to face the monster in front of her? Remember a lesson from his father and how humans will not be able to survive since they will not have the power of knowledge to survive independently. The monster runs towards him while father says that even if they survive it is only a matter of time until he dies. The monster throws himself into the attack and he asks his father how he should face him, since if everything he has said is true it means that he will not be able to do anything and he has just accepted his death. While the fist gets closer and closer to his face, time begins to tick. Stop while his father asks him if he has forgotten everything he has taught him. All the ways to counter begin to flow through today's mind. He sees the fist and avoids it and jumps behind the monster, but due to the momentum of the punch the monster has to avoid sliding the cliff. The boy is surprised that he was able to avoid it and sees that the monster is ready for the second assault, but he remembers his father telling him that it is made differently. The biggest difference between him and the others is that boy knows exactly what he must do to survive, since it is the only thing he has been taught. Boy stops shaking and calms down, crouching in a fighting position ready to fight. The monster charges towards him and he seems ready. He comes with another punch. Boy slides under the punch, stopping for the spike he saw before. He grabs it and pulls it out of the ground and charges at the monster, who turns to grab him, but he dodges the attack and with the spike in his hand he grabs her and turns to stab the monster straight through. From the head with it we go to a different area in which the monsters have completely taken over the city, or from the rubble that remains of the city in the underground we see some survivors, and they say that the police should have done something by now. It's been 4 days and they say they're lucky to be able to hide here, but they're running out of food. The girl looks at her friend and he doesn't say anything. She says that if they keep hoping, maybe something will change. A guy tells her that she's making everyone uncomfortable. The world, she tells him that he doesn't speak loudly, and he tells her that he doesn't mean that. As we see, it is most likely that her friend is already dead. He tells her that it doesn't matter and leaves, saying that she might be losing her mind. At this point a schoolgirl calls him and tells him that she can't find food anywhere. He tells her that they have to find food somehow if they want to stay here. She tells him that there is still one place to check and that she hasn't looked there, so she will return to check so as not to surrender. The man smiles and thanks her, saying that everyone is exhausted from standing guard against the monsters and she is the only one willing to help them so much. He calls her a great girl and she shakes her head, saying that not at all. He says that they have to keep hope and try to get everyone out of here. She is left speechless and approaches 2 people who are talking. They turn to look at her and she asks them if they have found food here. They look at each other and take out a sandwich, saying that they found it before. The girl breaks the bag and tells them to wait, but they eat it. She asks them what they are doing, saying that they said they would share the food. The other girl says that those boring people made that decision, that they never said they would agree to. She tells them just yesterday they ate the food from the shared ration. The man says he doesn't remember that. The girl grits her teeth and says she's going to report them. The guy gets up and threatens her, telling her to try it because they're not going to stare. She says how useless, since they can't catch her, as if there was something she was good at, it was running away. The guy starts walking towards her, but a scream is heard and everyone turns around and starts to feel afraid. The woman says she came from afar, so they're probably well. He says that he was scared for nothing. Then he notices that the schoolgirl is cowering on the floor. He sees her trembling and laughs at her. He tells her that a moment ago she was very sure of herself, but now she is afraid to move. He realizes she notices that they have left food and leaves quickly. She returns to the guy from before and he asks her if she has looked in the area. She told him. She says yes, and he asks her how wouldn't we see the food in his pocket, but his stomach growls and she tells him that she hasn't found anything. He says that it doesn't surprise him and that the important thing is that they are alive. But of course that won't last long, since a monster bursts into the room. The schoolgirl is knocked down but sits down again and gets scared. Seeing the monster behind the man, he crawls and extends his hand towards her, begging for help, but she runs away saying she is sorry. The man tells her to wait, and she tells him that she has already told him that he is not a good person, as he turns into a chew toy. The couple from before starts running too. They see the schoolgirl running straight towards a monster. The woman says she will be fine since they can use her as a CO. She continues running towards a dant, and the girl calls her an idiot. The monster swings towards her and she sees him, but in his eyes she has not given up. She throws herself forward and rolls beyond the attacks, going in a hand roll. The others are surprised since she even landed all the acrobatics. He remembers that she already said that she was good at going and that she wasn't bluffing. Then they eat them. We see she finally manages to take cover and is gassed. She falls to the ground and hopes that the monsters leave her alone. Then she looks and sees I'm sitting there. She also screams and pushes him, thinking he was a corpse, but he murmurs and she realizes that he is alive. But right in front of them there is a monster. She wonders if the monster heard her scream. He starts crawling towards them and she trembles with fear, but sees that the boy is still lying on the ground and grabs him by the neck and drags him away from the monster. Hiding, the two starts to leave and she thanks God he is gone and sighs, saying that she is alive. Then she looks down to see that today he is awake. Now she screams again and he jumps away. She asks him who he is and what he was doing to her. She is confused, but the only thing she hears are her father's words about not trusting anyone. She asks him what he means by saying that he hid him from a monster, but he says that probably his father is right and that he should not go near humans. He asks her how he can believe her, but his stomach growls and he throws himself on the floor. He says that this is not good since he is hungry. He ate something 5 days ago in the basement and he has reached his limit. He's been taking breaks to conserve his energy, but now he's run into a human. She tells him she doesn't have food and he asks her what she's talking about since he didn't ask her in the first place. She says he just looked hungry and she already told him. First, the food falls out of his pocket and he starts sweating nervously. He asks her what that is and she starts thinking of a cover, but he really has no idea what it is. But he gets hungrier as he looks at it. Then he asks her if it's food. She quickly says no. He says then she must have made a mistake, but she keeps trying to cover it up and says he's an idiot for not recognizing the food and that she can probably get out of here. So he calls her a liar, asking her if she thought that she would really believe a human. She feels lost and he tells her she would be wrong if she thought he would trust her since all humans lie. She realizes that she underestimated how smooth this guy's brain is. Boy says that judging by her reaction, he realizes that it is food that he needs and that if he no longer wants to cooperate, he will take it by force, but she gives him half, saying that it is exactly the half that she can't give him anymore. He wonders why she is sharing, saying that this only puts her at a disadvantage. She tells him that she has to give him back 4 times what he gave her and not to forget it. He says okay and starts eating his half. Then he leaves and she asks him where he is going. He says now that he has eaten, he leaves. She asks him where the hell he is going to go in this situation. She tells him that this is her neighborhood and that she knows the place well, so she is sure that there is nowhere to go because of the monsters bump into him and ask him why he has stopped moving. He asks her if she really knows the area well. She says yes, she grew up here. He asks her if she knows where the subway is. After sneaking around for a bit, she wonders, how did she end up in this situation? If she had known, she would not have shared her bread with him, but she is curious and asks him why he wants to go to the subway. He tells her that because it is safe there. He is focused on durable goods and it is a route for that they travel without the eyes of the monsters, and the most important thing that the subway makes it difficult for the monsters to detect the human. Says that it is strange and talks as if he knows something and that it is strange that he has not recognized the bread before. He says that they are here, but he confuses her, saying that she is sure that at least he was here. He asks her if she is trying to trick him. She tells him that it is obviously not the subway but that she is trying to find the entrance. She tells him to wait here and that he will find it, but an old man scares her and tells him. He says to be quiet. He says that he came because he heard something but he didn't expect them to be human. The boy asks him who he is and he says that that is rude and that they can introduce themselves. Later he tells them to follow him, but the girl asks them, where are they going? He says that they were looking for her well and guides them through the rubble and up the escalator to reveal that it is the subway they were looking for. The girl says that there are a lot of people and that it is surprising to see so many people here. The old man, he says he can't forget that moment thinking that the monsters would appear so randomly. He knew there was nowhere to run, but he found this place while escaping. It was pure luck, but he's been swearing on the surface, looking for medicine. That's why he heard them talking. I'm going look around him, saying that he planned to make an underground in the base, but there are so many people here. You can see all kinds, those drowned in despair, those who seem to show their evil side, and there is even someone who can't get anything clear here. The more humans there are, more risk factors he will have to manage, but among all of them there is none that can really put him in danger. He can instinctively distinguish who is dangerous. just like with the monsters on the surface and also like his father. He can feel an aura, so to speak, but no one here. Gives off a dangerous feeling, so maybe it's safe to stay here since none of them can really hurt him, and even if they become enemies. But his thought is cut off by the old man saying that it's time for introductions. His name is Juan Biong and it's Dr. Bien says again that he was looking for medicine and that's how he met them and he wasn't able to respond, so the girl says his name is Harubi and says it's a good name and judging by his clothes he should go to a virtual middle school. She says it as true, asking if he knows. He says of course since his hospital was right in front of the school near the mall. She says no, he remembers there was a hospital there. I see. He looks at boy and sees that his clothes are charapos. Yes, and he says it's clear he's been through a lot. Then he asks him his name. Boy says he doesn't know what her name is. BM he's surprised and Igo explains that he's never had one. BM thinks it's a joke. He says he can tell him next time and he laughs. A man rushes in saying things have gotten worse. We see a wounded man leaning against a wall and he is happy to see B&B and says he can see it's bad, and even though they stopped the bleeding last time he's progressing faster than expected. Says they have to operate now or else he will be in danger due to infection. Shows he has the surgical tools saying they must do it now. He is going to disinfect the wound and boy says he has read about doctors and books, a job that treats humans for a price, but now in the apocalypse they can't exchange money, so Bien asks what he gets as a price for treating them all. Bien seems surprised and says that he doesn't need something like that. Everyone is surprised by his answer. He says that the doctor's job is to treat those who are injured and not to worry since an operation has rarely failed. The man's tears of gratitude come to his eyes and he hugs him. The boy is confused and wonders why he helps him without anything. However, he wonders if humans are stupid or if they do this kind of thing. Bien tells him to be careful not to open his wounds. The man thanks him and sees that on his jacket it says that he is a veterinarian. Bien tells the man that it is time to start and that it may hurt, but he can't help it. The man starts to get scared saying wait a minute and that he doesn't want this. Bien tells him that he has to do it, he will die. The man asks how can a vet and operate on humans. Bien says which of course he can since humans are technically animals. The man tells him that he doesn't want this anymore. Bien tells him that he has to calm down before his condition gets worse. He says that he needs anesthesia and a girl tells him that they don't have any of that. Bien he bends over, picks up a brick and tells him that it's time for night sumo. The boy says he was wrong. Humans are definitely dangerous. The boy walks away and finds a quiet place. He says what he did, he comes not to see the operation, but he wonders what to do now, saying that all he has left is a photo taken during his childhood and a note on the back that says that she is now alive. He has no clues to find her, but when he looks at the photo he feels uneasy because in the background of the photo there were some unnatural, alien-looking flowers. Even when he was in the basement seemed strange to him, so he looked in flower books to find out more, but he couldn't find any information about the flowers in the photos. If that flower only grows in a specific area, maybe he can find out where it is. Took the photo. For this he has to find someone who can identify the flower as his only clue, so he has to make sure not to lose it and ask everyone about the flower. An insect flies by his face and crushes him like before, then goes to lick it like last time. She says that this is again very bitter. Inside another room a girl turns around and tells her boss that she has gathered everyone and says that it is time to start. She tells them to gather the others and if they refuse, use whatever they can to bring them here. All the civilians wonder why they are gathered here. One of them asks the guy why he gathers everyone here and mistreats them without any explanation. The guy ignores him and the man in the room continues chattering. Scar stares at him and makes him feel afraid. The man says that he can look into the depths of the human mind, that he can see what his true thoughts are and that he can read everything in his eyes. Inside the eye of this man he sees him shrunken inside a room since he is feeling fear. As Scarborough says that the man hides him acting tough outside. The normal guy starts yelling saying not to come closer and Scarborough punches him in the stomach saying that he will always reveal himself. The guy flies away. And everything the world freaks out as he walks back to the guy and picks him up saying this is exactly what he wanted to see. He wants to see more. He wants to see how really scared he is. The man begs him to stop and his subordinate tells him there are people who aren't there here. He asks who is. She says that the old man, a boy and a girl along with the injured person. He tells her that he told him to gather everyone, asking him what had gone wrong. He says that they gave it to that thug but he didn't pay attention and he disappeared. Scar says that they were never able to control that guy and that he will do it himself since he wants to look them in the eyes. When he finds them she asks what to do with the one that is on the ground. Scar says that the man should throw him out. He says that he can't even. Who will do what they ask. Scar starts walking towards today's area and we see today on the ground. He wonders when he fell asleep saying that he couldn't rest well for a few days since he had to protect himself from the monsters, but he is surprised because he didn't. He has no idea where he is. he presses his foot but he has no idea where the floor is. He wonders if he is trying to swallow it but says no. The sweat runs down his chin to the floor and he says that something may have already eaten it. She starts to turn her arms around him and goes for his neck and he tries to escape but she encapsulates high, blocking his exit. He screams while awake. He realizes that it was a dream and says that it seemed very real, but he sees Scar and his boys in front of them and asks them, who are they? Scarl says he has 2 minutes and if he doesn't make it to the center of the station he will expel him from here. One of his henchmen says he better go there or it might be too risky. Boy gets up and Scar says he was curious to see who they were, those who were hiding, but it seems useless. Boy asks him if he plans to expel him. Go asks how and one of his henchmen starts to bark but Scar stops him saying that this is the fun way. He tells him to look at him. He starts looking into Boy's eyes saying that he wants to see his true emotions but Scar starts to feel something overwhelming about him and runs out. He speaks as what we'll call him. Mole asks what's going on and says I'm going now. He's in trouble and he should have left when they gave him 2 minutes. Boy says 2 minutes not 2 seconds is enough time to finish them off. Mole starts laughing saying that the boss was right and that it's funny. Mole pulls out a knife asking if those are his last words. Scarl puts his hand on Mole's shoulder is surprised, then Boy realizes something since his photo has disappeared. Mole asks him if he is looking for it. He says that he didn't expect to find anything worthwhile and that he only found this stupid photo. Boy starts to get angry and stomps forward saying that if there is even a scratch on that photo will kill him. Mole starts to have cold sweats and Scar grabs the photo saying that if he comes close he will tear it. Mole starts hitting him asking him where his confidence has gone. The boy gets angry with himself for having let his guard down while he was sleeping. He says he knew that humans were more dangerous than monsters. Mole asks what they should do next, and if they should expel him. Scar says no. Mole doesn't understand why not. Scar explains that when he looked into his eyes a moment ago, the inside was different from the rest. Mole asks him if he has to go that far for him but Scar makes sure he understands that it's an order. Mole says that he did get scared when Hoi was about to attack them, but that doesn't matter anymore. As long as he has the photo, he won't be able to move. We see Haru enter the room, surprised. He asks everyone what's going on. Passing by, Scarl says that he has saved him the trouble of having to look for her. Haru panics and asks why they are looking for her. He tells her to show up at the center of the mole station and they leave and he laughs saying that he will see him again and that he will take care of the photo. He leaves and Haru sees him sitting. She approaches him and asks him if he is okay. He takes his hand away from her face. She grits her teeth and says that she was trying to help him up. He tells her that he didn't needs him to move. She tells him that her name is not human, that she has already told him what her name was before and to remember it. He walks past her wondering if he really needs to remember something like that. He notices the uncomfortable air that surrounds him and Haru asks her if something has happened. She angrily tells him no and that she is the idiot for trying to talk to someone he didn't want to talk to in the first place. The boy sighs, asking why he would shake hands with a human. His father warned him that he will never trust him. No one who would extend a hand to him. Humans are his enemy after all. Go to Mole saying that it will be easier for him to recover it by force, although he will destroy it. He could put it back together but he doesn't want to ruin the photo. It is the only object that came out with the one from the basement. So there's no reason to risk him breaking it. He'll wait for him to release the photo. Scar says that since everyone is here, he'll let them know. They have two options, follow him or not. If they choose to follow him, they won't have to worry about being kicked out like the guy behind him. He points out the man from before and says that he tried to cause chaos in the subway, so he has decided to expel them if they decide to be with him. He will not treat them as if he were the rebel who tried to break the peace. He will not force them to follow him by force, but he should know that his word is absolute. Down here everyone seems scared and they begin to see what the others decide, and little by little everyone begins to take Scar's side. BM says that the strong rule the weak in a world where the law is obsolete. It is not strange that things have ended like this. Scar does not specifically say that they should follow him, but he tries to convey what would happen to those who will not agree to do so, and he will continue, which is the logical option if he wants to live longer. BM sweats nervously, then smiles and straightens his tie, saying that he's already been through a lot, being unpredictable from time to time. It's not so bad if he joins that side. He might not be able to help when a patient really needs him, so he plans to stay on this side even if he's alone. But we see that Haru doesn't join and he lets out a sigh. BM is surprised and asks her if she doesn't plan to join them. She says no and he tries to tell her to go and do it and that this is stupid. She laughs and points out saying that she's not the only one who's doing it. She stupidly asks what that means and turns to see that today many others are not on her side either. She sees a girl with BM and she asks why no one includes her, and she didn't want to stay here, but now they are being forced to join the other group. And they could be tortured. Another girl, but Costing says it won't be so bad, that they will be kicked out or starved instead of torturing. Glassy gets scared and starts screaming, saying they are screwed. A girl trips over BM, what I guess her father. He tells her he's sorry and he should have held her properly. BM laughs, saying she's of age, but tells him to listen to her father. She starts talking incantation table and he says he can't hear her very well. She screams that he can't, it's her father. Head-butting BM. He says that her father is looking for her with her mother. The man says that he's right. They keep crossing paths and that he realized that she was separated, so until they find her parents, he will act like his tutor. Some men are talking, then they look and see a boy entering the room. He tells him that the boss has said that he cannot enter or he will be punished, and he will not be an exception because he is young. The boy ignores him, wondering where the bastard is who the photo has been stolen. You see some people saying that they should only take the amount that has been rationed to them and that they will be monitored later, so don't fool around. Glassy asks why they receive such a small amount compared to the others, and the guy. He tells him that it's the boss's rules and they are stuck in the room doing nothing, so because they need a lot of food. A little smell of food wafts around and towards a guy directly in his nose like a cartoon character. He opens his eyes, saying he smells something good, asking if it's time. Then one guy asks another where there is someone. He refers to the boss's left hand. We will call him Mook since his nickname is Chicken Comb. He doesn't listen to anyone and acts like his, and he is a psychopath who kills people with a smile on his face. They ask him if that is real and he tells them that then they should never bother him. The girl from before collides with him, spilling her food everywhere, and looks up to seeing Manhwa. Tells him that it is dangerous to run here and now his clothes are in a mess. He tells him to follow him and they start talking about the next victim being the boy, but they wonder why he is walking in their direction. Mock calls him and they ask him what does he need. He says not much and that they should give the girl her rations, even though they say the rations are one per person. He says that then they can give her his. He hands her the tray of food that he has spilled and she stops crying. They wonder what is happening, doing an eyes that this must be a form of torture and that he will bother her while she goes to eat. Her guardian quickly tells her to get behind him and asks what she did wrong. Mohawk gets angry, asking what the hell she did wrong. The guardian says that they have to. He leaves and quickly runs with her, but the girl turns to look at Mold, who is confused. Then he smiles. He sees people guarding a door and Pikas is talking to Haru, saying that it seems like there is more surveillance. Boy wonders if he should go look for his photo and look. Haru, who looks away as she is upset because he was being rude to her, and slaps his hand away. Freckles sees he is acting strange, jumps back to everyone asleep, and Pia sits up and looks around. She sees Boy sitting in the corner and walks towards him. She goes to touch him and then starts to feel pain as he grabs her arm. She is surprised he was awake. Boy asks her what she was doing, saying he knew he would attack him while he was sleeping. She turns away. She asks why she's so loud, but she says it hurts and she just wanted to talk. The boy asks her what she means by talking. She says it sounds like she's never had a conversation before. Bot stares at her blankly and asks her why does it matter if he has never had a conversation. Freckles, he is confused. He lets go of her hand and tells her to get to the point. She looks at him intently and says that now that he thinks about it, why is he always away from the rest? And then she asks him if he is a shy person. He gets angry, saying that I already did stupid things. He says he has no reason to be near the enemy. Freckles asks him what he means. He tells him that every human is an enemy, asking if there is any reason why he should be around people who would stab him in the back. Freckles says that he doesn't plan to hurt her anymore. He says he doesn't believe her, that she could be lying. She says she's fine but asks him to reconcile with her. He asks her what she means by reconcile, saying he's never had a fight with her. She asks him if he can take good with her, then he says that's another issue, they're still human and she's no different than those outside the room. Pika says Yara thinks the others can't hear her, but she cries every night while holding her breath. Probably there is something heartbreaking that she doesn't dare say, but the same thing may happen to everyone present, but that's all if he is the same age as her and gets along with her. Then it would be better to be straight. The boy says that that is shameless and that being sad is only for weak humans. If they have time to do that, it would be better to find out how to survive. She asks him if he has never been sad after losing someone important to him. He remembers his father saving him on the bridge and says no, and that he doesn't know either. It will be the case in the future because he has no one around. He Sin says not to be sad because he doesn't have a special person, which just makes it seem like he is incredibly lonely right now and will continue to be that way, but don't worry as he would already be sad for him if he dies. Boy is surprised by this and says that it makes him feel more since he won't die and he won't care if she dies. She laughs, saying that it's cold, then he starts coughing. It seems like he's waking up. She says that She may have talked too much, but she won't bother anymore. She tells him to have sweet dreams, but he doesn't say anything and just thinks she's a weird human. We see glasses pretending to exhausting. If you've seen it to the end, comment fun John to let me know. Subscribe for more content, leave a like or a comment to help the channel. Thanks for watching.